Today I'm looking at the Sofirn LT1s, where the S stands for small or short. If you followed my reviews, you know I've really enjoyed the BLF LT1, which is made by Sofirn, and I've got that here with the orange band on it. While the LT1s takes some design cues and even a few parts from the larger brother, the two are really different lanterns on the inside. The LT1s here runs on a single 21700 battery that fits in through the bottom, offers red mode, can tint shift in white mode, has an aimable beam, and a different UI. Thanks to Sofirn for sending this to me. They have offered a discount, which I'll have in the description or in the first comment below. So if you're interested in one of these, make sure you hit up that discount and get this for a special price. And if you're not already following me, I do have social media all over the place: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok now. So make sure you check that out. I will insert pictures of the packaging here since it's a little bit bigger than what comfortably shows on screen, but accessories with the light include a couple extra O-rings, a USB-A to USB-C charging cable here that's pretty nice. You've got a 5000 milliamp hour 21700 that's in the light, and that is an optional extra. And then you get this manual here. There is English on the inside. They just folded it so it's not English on the front. A little bit frustrating, but is what it is. It's a good manual, and you'll want to take a look at it for UI and other tips. The LT1s takes many design cues from the LT1, at least on the top half. I will show you both lights best I can kind of here. You can see they're similar but different on the top. Where you really notice it is in the front here. It's a very, very similar arrangement with the same reflector, but that's about where things stop as terms of what's the same and different here. So don't think this is just a short version of the LT1. Looking at the top here, you've got your main button here, and this is an electronic switch, but it's got a good click to it. You've got 4 LED indicators there for battery power. You've got a USB-C plug underneath your cover there, and this is pretty watertight, and I'll get to that here in a minute. Then you've got this hanger bracket here, and this is the same that was on the LT1. Then you've got the reflector, as I talked about before, and at the bottom you've got this just flat aluminum cap. Opening it up on the inside, you've got the main spring there. It's pretty stiff, and one of the advantages of this here is you can insert an 18650 and the light will still work, and I'll show that to you a little bit later. And the battery then goes into the light positive side facing the top in that cylindrical tube there, and it is non-magnetic. Threads are Acme cut and things are well greased. I had no trouble there. I like that there's very minimal branding here, just Sofirn LT1, little battery symbol, caution hot, which it gets warm but not hot, and then your customary markings on the bottom here. I do wish they could go without these. There seems to be lights without them. Not everything has it, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Overall, this is a very solid feeling lantern. The aluminum and top feel a lot nicer than like your plastic lights your competition here have, and I suspect it'll make the light a lot more durable over time too. So mounting, your primary method of mounting this light will be the wire bail here at the top. Hang on a branch, hang on a rope, that type of thing. There is no threaded 1/4-20 inserts anywhere on this light like the LT1 had, which is a little bit of a disappointment for me. That gave you a lot of options. The diameter here at the top is the same, so I have a 3D printed shade that I made for my LT1 that fits on here just fine, and I'll insert a picture of that. It's just a little bit too big to show on camera. I looked through Amazon and tried to find a case that the LT1s fit in here, and this is what I found. It's not a perfect fit. It's not as nice as the case that people found for the LT1, but I'll show you what this looks like here. You can see it doesn't quite shut, but you can bend the lid and get it to shut just fine. So it's a little bit big, not quite thick enough, but it does work for a case if you really want one. I'll have a link to these in the description. As far as this one, I think I might actually return it just because I want something just a little bit better if it exists. There is space here for a charger and a wire to go in there to run an extra battery, so it's kind of nice to have it just a little hair bigger too. I measured the length of the LT1 at 97 millimeters. Diameter at the top here is 68 millimeters. Diameter at the bottom here is 59.5. As far as I can tell, this is basically the same as the LT1, so if you've got one of those, you know how big it is roughly. Weight with the battery is 338 grams, and the light is IPX8 water rated, and I confirmed this by taking a shower with it one night. I didn't have any issues. I didn't fully submerge the light, but it got quite a bit of stream of water on it, and I've got a clip of that here. And here are some comparison photos with the LT1 and the Olight O lantern. So emitters and beams here. The LT1 uses a lot of LEDs, 40 in total to be exact, 18 in the 2700 Kelvin tint, and they are in the CSP 1919 package, 18 LEDs in the 6500 Kelvin tint, also in the same package, and then 4 lattice power red LEDs. Sofirn doesn't give an exact model of the LEDs that are given here, but there is speculation that they might be Luxon brand due to the high CRI. My unscientific opal meter measured this in the warm tint as 2585 CCT with an RA value of 97, and then cool white with a tint value of 5732 with an RA value of 100. I think these numbers should be taken with a large grain of salt, especially that RA value, but they are clearly high CRI numbers. But anything above 90 I wouldn't read too much into. It's good, but probably not exactly what the meter says. It is interesting that the cool white numbers didn't quite hit that 6500 claim. I did notice some PWM that probably doesn't come through on the video lights, but to my eye that's slightly noticeable. And I'm not overly sensitive to this. While PWM is present throughout the light because of the ramping UI, I don't notice it, but my opal meter does, and so does an oscilloscope. The LEDs are mounted at the top here. There are a few pictures online of people taking these apart, and if I've gotten permission from the person, I'll have a few photos of that, their name below to show you kind of what it looks like. It's relatively easy to take apart, but I really am going to use this one, so I didn't want to take apart mine. The light does have a unique feature of being able to turn the power off on one side or the other. Okay, I've got my camera and video lights adjusted here to kind of show you a few things about the light. It does have the option to turn off half of the white LEDs as I've got here. So on this side, they are turned off, and you can see on this side they're turned on. And I thought this was a little bit gimmicky at first and didn't really like it, but the more I use the light and in testing, turned out I really like it. It's great for helping not blind you. If you've got this out on a table in front of you or something, it'll catch your eye if you've got them on all the way. You can easily turn on this halfway mode and turn this side off. Aims the beam a little bit better. I can double click again and it switches, which is kind of nice, and double click again and they all come back on. Okay, let's take a look at night shots for my Sofirn LT1s here that I've got on. I've got it in the warm mode here, about 2700K, and it's in the medium mode, 50 lumens. I can bump up to high here, 150, and go to turbo, which is the full 500. You can see that's pretty bright, lights up the table nicely here. If I do 4 clicks, it moves to ramping mode, and you can see it ramps pretty quickly, which is nice. So all the way down and all the way up. If I click and hold, you can see the tints shift. So this is all the way cool white, about 6500 Kelvin. And I'm going to ramp down just a little bit here. It's kind of bright. If I click and hold there, you can see it. You can stop at any point. So this is kind of like a neutral white. Click, hold, and back to warm, which is kind of where I like the light. You've got 3 clicks to go to red. Red has a couple different modes. This is the lowest output. Bumping up, this is medium. And then this is high. Right. This is very bright red on high. They don't give a lumen count though, unfortunately. If I double click in red, it goes to a SOS feature. And then I can double click again, and this is SOS. The other one was strobe, I guess. 3 clicks again gets me back to the white mode. And then the other thing I wanted to show is the directional modes here on the light. So if I double click there, you might be hard to tell, but you can tell by the surrounding light. I've just got the far side is off, the front side facing me is on, and I can kind of turn the light around. You can see how it's directional. It's not perfect, but it's a neat feature, I think. Double click again, it switches over to the other bank, and double click again, and it goes back to full power here. And just a bit of comparison, here's the LT1. They're similar outputs, they're probably not quite the same here. Both are in ramping mode, but this is probably 400 lumens each. You can see they're very comparable here in terms of outputs. It's a nice lantern, that's for sure. If you like the LT1, I think you'll really like the LT1s. I think the LT1s is a little bit easier to use since it doesn't have Androl on it. Overall, a very nice lantern. I did a lot of runtime tests here with different modes and a few extra with the light powered with an 18650 battery and a 10,000 milliamp hour power bank. Since this light is capable of 4 tints, I ran some tests multiple times and did comparisons. Here's a runtime test for the maximum warm output with the 5,000 milliamp hour battery that's included. As you can see, the light sustained nearly 100% relative output for about 25 minutes before stepping down, with the total runtime being 3 hours 9 minutes with max temps reaching 42 degrees. You can see that it was pretty stable during most of this time, and that's what you want from a lantern. I ran the same test comparing warm, cool, and neutral white outputs, and the results are similar. Cool white had the least amount of runtime, but only by about 10 minutes, then warm, and I was surprised that neutral white had the longest runtime by about an hour. I guess that's more LEDs that are on, but they're less bright, I assume. It resulted in a more linear output and ran to 4 hours and 3 minutes. I also tested the light with a runtime of running one side of the emitters in warm mode at full output versus both sides, and as expected, running half the LEDs resulted in a more stable output initially and for longer. That resulted in a substantial increase in total output of over half of what was about 5% relative output, so very dim. The red runtime shows this light isn't able to sustain its highest output for nearly as long while as its white outputs in its highest modes before stepping down, but then declining slowly. It has about 2 hours 30 minutes of runtime in red, but continued to run at about 5% runtime for a considerable amount of time of 5 hours 30 minutes. And since an 18650 battery fits in here and makes contact, I threw a 3000 milliamp hour VTC6 in, and its output shape was nearly identical to the 5000 milliamp hour cell, but just shorter overall. Total runtime was an hour 43 minutes versus 3 hours 6 minutes. And the lantern also runs directly off of USB power. You can actually take the battery out and remove the cap and it'll still work, just powered off the USB plug, and that's what I did. It runs on a lower output, I'm guessing about 50% or so, but off a 10,000 milliamp hour power bank, it ran for an impressive 12 hours 20 minutes. So in a disaster situation, that's always good. Most people have a lot of power banks and stuff like that, so you can keep this thing running for a long time and still have pretty usable light. Low voltage protection came in here at 2.738 volts. It was fully charged at 4.102 volts, and parasitic drain was measured at between 150 and 200 microamps. Unlike the original LT1, the LT1s is using a UI that Sofirn developed instead of Anduril. This is kind of disappointing because Anduril works so well on the LT1 and I really like the special blinking modes. However, Sofirn's UI is easy to use and it appeals to a broader audience. Anduril is fairly complicated to use. So here's a quick demonstration from on. You can click 4 times to switch between ramping and stepped mode. So right now I'm in ramping, as you can see here, and it ramps quickly. If I click 4 times, it flashes to let me know I'm in stepped then, and you can see it steps. 3 clicks to go between red and white. So here is red mode. There's not a ramping option here. And you can see high is quite bright, probably blows out my video lights. Low is almost a little bit too bright too, I think, in the pitch dark, but it's pretty nice. To go back to white, you just click 3 times. Double click to operate as that directional light as I showed before there. So you can see it shuts off one side, double click again, goes to the other side, double click again for all of them. When you're in red mode, you can double click to activate your SOS or strobe, and I showed that on the night shots. So you can also single click. You can also single click and hold to change the tint. So I'm at the warmest I am, so it flashed there. So click hold, and you can see there it goes to neutral and then cool white. I'll do that one more time a little bit brighter so you can better see it. So click hold, and it's going to warm up, and then flash to let me know I'm at the very bottom. So that's nice, you can get the exact tint you want, and then you click and hold the switch to ramp or adjust brightnesses as you've seen me do here. So this is in stepped mode currently, so you can see I'm just holding, and this is pretty common in a lot of flashlights. And then from off, you just long press and you get moonlight mode, which is very low and can't really see the way I've got the camera adjusted right now. The light recharges via USB-C on the top here. It is sealed with that silicone cover. It is USB-C PD compliant, but does not fast charge or work as a power bank. And here's the graph, including charging the 5000 milliamp hour battery from low voltage protection at 2.738 volts to full at 4.1. And this took just at 3 hours and 18 minutes. Max charging speed I saw was 1.8 amps. The manual says this can charge up to 3 amps max charging speed, but I didn't see anything like that. It's possible I need to go back and look at triggering quick charge. I did not try that, but it doesn't seem to be used the normal USB-C protocol either, because I had it plugged into a 65 watt charger, USB-C native charger here, and it did not bump up to 3 amps. The light will run while charging, although it's at a lower output, and I ran the light at max output and started charging via the 65 watt USB-C charger, and at the end of 4 hours it was showing 1 LED solid up here at the top on the battery check, and according to the manual that's between 25 25 and 50% power. If I have time here before I release this video, I'll insert a graph showing how long this takes to completely charge. I'm expecting it to take probably 8+ hours. And like I said before, the light will run off an 18650. So here's my 18650 going in there. You can see it does rattle. Turn it on and no problems. The powerful spring there keeps the battery pretty tight and I don't really notice any rattling. So that's a good option as a backup power source. So my final thoughts on the LT1S are lanterns are one of those things you can probably do without if you've got a good flashlight. But once you have one, you immediately notice the value of having a light designed with a specific task in mind. The LT1S is smaller, more stable, and easier to use version of the LT1. That said, it doesn't have the runtime that the LT1 has, and it doesn't have the advanced features that Andro brings. Reading over the comments at BLF on the LT1, there are a few that are unhappy with the similarities in design that the LT1S has to the LT1 that Sofirn produces. And that said, I think most people have concluded that the two are different enough to ruffle too many feathers, and I have to agree with that. I like the more simple UI here for the most part. It's going to be better for most people who are not used to Andro, nor do they want to take the time to learn it. As we know, Andro is complicated. The addition of the red here is great for those that want to preserve night vision, but even in low mode, I'd say that it's almost too bright, and on high, it's really bright. I like the ability to shut off half the white emitters. I thought that was kind of gimmicky at first, but the more I use it, the more I like it. It's nice for keeping the beam out of your eye. For me, this is an easy recommendation. The pros easily outweigh the small cons. Sofirn has provided that 20% discount, which I'll have in the description in the comments below. If you're interested in picking this up, that's going to be the best place to do that. These have been popular, so they might sell out. If you don't see one, make sure you check back, and they will be making new batches. So let me know, guys, in the comments what you think of the LT1S. Will you be picking one up? Is it going to replace your LT1, or do you think you not need a lantern? As always, thanks for watching these videos. I appreciate all your comments and feedback, and I'll catch you on the next video.